there, it's Beauty Junkie. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to show you the After Dark palette from Lethal Cosmetics. I'm so excited to finally get this palette. It has a lot of really fun sort of 80s, 90s colors, more 80s, but it definitely has like a 90s retro vibe with the packaging. It's a lot of fun, so I can't wait to get into it with you. So just a note, I did receive this palette yesterday in the mail. It took a little while to ship, but it is coming from Germany, international shipping. You know how that goes. I was disappointed to find that one of the shades was completely broken and shattered, and I contacted the company yesterday right away. And they emailed me this morning saying that unfortunately they couldn't replace the shade because of the exorbitant shipping cost. It would cost $20 to ship, even though they're shipping just one shade. So they are not going to replace it. They offered a refund of $3.90 some cents, which is the cost of one shade in this palette. That's not including shipping. So they said they would refund me almost $4 for that shade, or they would give me $6 in store credit. I went for the refund because I'm not sure when I will be shopping with this brand anytime soon, unless they have a new launch. I'm not saying that I won't buy from them again. It's just I don't know if the store credit is really worth it right now. So that being said, it's unfortunate that that's really the only options they have, but I understand. So the shade that was broken is Synth, and it's like a pink, sparkly, glittery shade. It's really pretty. The good thing is when I do order in the future, I can replace the shade because they do sell it in a single. It is $7 though, so it's funny that they were going to give me $6 in store credit, but the thing with this palette is the cost of each shade is actually reduced than if you were to buy them individually. So that's why I got a reduced amount of a refund and a reduced amount of store credit. So if you were to buy each shade individually, it would cost you a lot more than the cost of this palette. And you're not getting any size reduction, which is different than I think most companies that come out with palettes. They usually make the pan size smaller to make everything more cost efficient, but you're actually getting full size pans in here. So interesting way of doing business, but it was really easy for me to take out the shade. So my palette I can still fully use. I'm not worrying about making a huge mess and getting all the other shades covered in dust. I do want to show you the packaging, how the box came. Alright, so this is the size box that it came in. It came shipped UPS. They told me that that's not the normal carrier that they use, and probably explains why it's $20 to ship. So I bought the palette is $47. My order came out to $66 including shipping. So this is a $66 palette. This is kind of, the box is like, it's a bit damaged, like I cut this part, but it's not exactly in perfect shape. You can see sort of the dents happening here, which is fine, but when you have like a delicate thing in here, this kind of damage makes a difference, unfortunately. So it came with this paper, and the palette was in this bubble wrap, which, you know, should be enough. I've actually never had issues with Lethal and shipping before, but as you can see, like, the palette takes up most of the box, and I think having a bigger box with more substantial bubble wrap and tissue paper would have probably saved it, or at least helped, but because this is kind of moving around in here, I got a little bit of damage to the corner of my palette, Unfortunately, it's not a huge deal. I'm not complaining. I'm just, so this is the outer sleeve. I put the stickers on. It's a really cute palette, but I got a little bit of damage to the corner here. You can see it's like a little bit bunched up and bent versus like the other side. I know it's like super slight. You can probably not even see what I'm seeing. That's not a big deal, but the shade that came out was this one, and I'll go ahead and show you the damage. So this is the shade Synth, and it came pretty broken up. I was able to move it, and when I moved it, this kind of piece popped out from here, but it was pretty broken up. But I understand, like, when people do business, they sell things, they don't have full control over shipping and how things are shipped. And I'm sure that because things already cost a lot for shipping, you know, making the box bigger may increase their cost even more. So I totally get it. I just wanted to let you guys know what they do customer service wise when things like this happen. As far as the palette goes, I got a sticker set and I used all the stickers. It comes on the sheet, and you can decorate the outer sleeve and the palette. So these are all the stickers, and you can tell there's like a, you know, 80s sort of / 90s sort of theme with the floppy disk, the tape deck, the Game Boy, and just sort of the graphic design is totally like retro. And these are the other stickers. What's great about this palette is they have a little directory of the shade names in the palette. So that's gonna be useful. So I'll go ahead and go through the shade names and do some swatches with you. This is the inside of the palette, a very colorful, cool color scheme. It has this like film that you can remove. It says play, like an old VHS tape, has the date, May 14th, 1992. So you can sort of see the vibes that they're trying to go for. And you'll notice on the back of the palette there's a bunch of holes, and that is how I easily removed the shades. So their other empty palettes, they look like this. There's no sort of space in between, so these are a lot more compact, at least slightly. I like a good small palette. I don't really need the space in between, but having the holes behind the palette make it easier to pop out the shades. But yeah, so those are the same size. You could definitely move your other shades in here. If you prefer to use this sort of as an empty palette, you can move things around, which is also really nice for us control freaks and organization freaks. Alright, so I do have some of their other shades in their collection. I created this palette. This is the black empty palette. These are my cooler tone shades, and then I have their white empty palette, and these are my warmer tone shades from them. And just sort of comparing, before I get into swatches, the colors. Ooh, I may have a repeat in here. Night Call looks very similar. I don't think it's like, no, it's not the same. So Night Call, this purple looks very similar to Unity, but it's not the same. This sort of purpley mauve shade, Release, looks somewhat similar to Sequence, the shade here, but not the same, obviously. I think Quick Save, this orange shade right here, could be paired really well with this sort of pink corally shade that I have, Remission. So you could see how those would pair well together. And then I have a kind of an army green shade, Habitat is gonna go well with Replica. If you wanna like do monochromatic kind of looks. They have other shades in this sort of color family. I don't think I have anything else similar to the rest of these shades, so that's good. So I'm gonna go from left to right and then top to bottom. So first shade we have here is Frequency, and this looks kind of like just a matte white shade, which you're probably not going to see too well on me. It feels a bit powdery, but I'm surprised you can actually see this pretty well. Next up we have Arcade. This is a bit of a more of a textured shade, but you can probably see why. It's very shimmery, really pretty. I don't have a lot of shades in this texture from Lethal Cosmetics, and I really love this sort of shade of like almost a princess pink, bubblegum pink. Not quite bright bubblegum, but just very pretty and sparkly and girly. Next up we have is Replica, and this is sort of a lime green, a moss green. It's a matte color. It's gonna go well with all my other green shades in my collection. This is Outrun matte shade. It's kind of like a sky blue. Very pigmented, even with just a few swipes. This is Sequence. We're on to the second row. Ooh, this is a pretty purple shade. I don't see a lot of companies able to pull off a shade like this. It's matte. It's definitely really gorgeous. I do love purple. Proxy. This is a nice teal shade. Wow. I don't have any color like this in my collection in general. I don't have a ton of blues, especially matte blues. These are the only other real blues that I have, and these are sort of green. This is the only really true blue, and I think these two would go with these two blues here. And these shades though are like glittery, shimmery, not glittery, are shimmery. This is Ascension. The one next to it is Venom, the sort of green shimmer shade. So Ascension and Venom are gonna go with these ones really well. But I am loving this color story. How pretty, right? I mean, these are not my usual shades. I mean, I don't mind a green and a pink and a white and then a purple. Blues are a little bit more out of my comfort zone, but I still have them. I still own some, just not something I always use. So next we have Quick Save. Ooh, this is an interesting color. Those of you who love warm tones are really gonna like this sort of corally orange color. Ooh, this one looks so pretty. This is more of a textured shade similar to Arcade, the pink one here. This is Mainframe. Oh, that is gorgeous. It's got a bit of a shift to it, just like Arcade. Really nice. I love the deep color on this one. And then when I look this way, it's more orange, and then it shifts to like that bright magenta pink. That is a winner. Very pretty. So those are the first two rows. I'm gonna move on to this arm on the last row. So the next we have is Overdrive, and this is a soft shimmer shade that is whites, silvery, more of a cool toned. Sorry, I lost it there for a second. You can see how pretty that one is. just very silvery, sparkly. And then the next one we have is the one that I have is broken. It's Synth, and this is a very pretty sparkly purple, and it's definitely softer. It does not as textured feeling on my fingers when I'm swatching. Oh, this is such a pretty shade. There, you can see that a little bit better. It's definitely got a shift, a duochrome effect. Super, super pretty shade. You can see it on my finger. How nice is that one? Definitely one I didn't want to break. I do love purple, I do love shimmer. Alright, two more. We have Caps Lock. Definitely a lot of computer references here. Just a very pretty pink matte shade. Very, very bright pink. Very cute. And then last but not least, we have a matte purple called Night Call. And this one, purple's always a really tough shade to formula to make. It looks like it's doing just fine though. So I think this palette's pretty cohesive. I think the only like standout shade for me that doesn't quite fit, but you can make it work if you're good with like color stories, is the mossy green. Because purples and blues and pinks all go really well easily together. This sort of warm shade stands out to me just because I feel like the rest of the palette is a bit cooler, but at least you have this shade to kind of work with as a companion. But I think that gives the palette a little bit of diversity. Super nice, super bright. Can't wait to try them on my eyes. So there is the swatches. This is the first row, second row, third row. Very nice. And if you guys are, you know, crazy enough to want to move around the colors because you don't like the color story in the order that it's in, you can certainly move these around very easily. I want to do like a fully purple eye, and then I want to do more of a pink leaning eye. And I want to use like all the shades. So I want to use the 3 purple shades plus the silver. So 1, 2, 3 plus the broken one. And then on the pink side of things, I want to not only just use the matte pink in the sort of orangey shade, but the pretty like fuchsia shade and maybe a little bit of the light pink. Yeah. I do want to start with the white bone color just to kind of play with it first. So we're gonna do that, and that shade name is Frequency. A little bit of a powdery shade, a lot of kick up. But I liked how this swatch actually showed up on my skin. So I think white is good for brightening, you know, no matter the skin tone. Of course, the deeper your skin tone you are, the deeper the white probably needs to be. Sometimes going a little bit more yellow or bone off white makes more sense, depending on the look you're going for. But I'm just gonna do a little bit of brightening in the inner part of my eye. So I think that's a good start. I'm gonna do purple first. Sequence, which is this matte sort of mid-tone purple color that's just super gorgeous. It reminds me of the shade in the original like ABH Norvina palette, not the ones that like came after that, but like the original like long and narrow one. This reminds me of that shade. I never owned it. It just, like, looking at the colors, it looks pretty similar. So this is like the second layer of this purple shadow. Didn't quite go on super pigmented, but it is a purple. But oh, this is such a pretty shade. You don't see a lot of companies come out with colors like this. So I just wanted to use my fingers to see, and it gave a little bit more impact. I mean, you could stop right there. So pretty. I'm gonna go in with the deeper purple. This is Night Call, and we're just gonna go into the crease a little bit. Another matte we're working with. You can see it's a little bit of a different tone of purple, but I think it sets off the lighter shade really nicely. So I'm gonna take this deeper purple shade and take it under my eye. Yeah, I mean, even though these are different tones, I think these shades are working just seamlessly together. So pretty. Alright, so we're gonna go into Synth. I'm gonna take a flat brush for this sparkly shade. Now I know those of you that are a bit more crafty than I am would see a broken palette and think, no big deal, I can fix that. I'll smash it up in little pieces and press it myself. Ooh, I am so scared to do something like that. So I'm just gonna go in the middle of my lid. Ooh. This actually may not be the right brush. I'm gonna use a different flat brush from Refer, the number 2. I think because this is all broken up, I'm not quite getting what I need. Oh, there we go. Such a pretty princess sparkle shade. And I said that about the pink one as well. I think this is like the purple equivalent of that sparkly pink arcade. So that is a really nice shade. I'm just gonna use my finger. Yeah, that stepped it up a bit, a little bit more drama now. I just didn't feel like building up lots of light layers and washes of that shade. I just used my finger to dip in, and it definitely gives a more dramatic effect. So I'm going to go back in with Night Call and go back over my crease because I kind of went too high up. I want to maintain this color story a bit better. So pretty. And if you like don't like deep purples because you feel like it gives you like a black eye look, you could certainly not do the crease color and just do the light purple colors, the matte and the shimmery, and you could definitely have a really pretty eye look without like the deeper color surrounding it. That's just kind of how I do my makeup. I like to have contrasting shades. But you definitely don't have to do that, especially if you're kind of afraid of those deep purples. I'm going to do a little bit of blending. I'm not like a perfect or that talented at eyeshadow application. I just do what I like to do. I'm going to go in inner corner in Overdrive, which is that silvery sparkly shade. Just do some inner corner. This is a very powdery shade. But it does have some sparkle and impact. I do feel like this is another one that would just be quicker if you use your fingers, but because of the area, I'm not gonna do that. So that is the first eye. I think I may do a little bit of the sparkle on the brow bone. even though I've kind of stopped doing that over the years. You know, putting something up here on the brow bone. I do think it kind of complements the inner corner. Alright, on to the pink eye. I'm gonna start with the orange shade, orangey, warmer shade, and that is Quick Save. It's a matte shade, little bit of kick up. And I think my plan is this is just kind of gonna be like a starting shade. I don't think it's gonna be like totally seen with the other colors in this look because they're gonna overpower the shade, but I just want a little bit of a backdrop to work with. But this is a really pretty warm matte shadow that I think a lot of people are going to like, because it's so versatile and universal. Even though it looks pretty orange in the pan, it's definitely easy color to work with, I think, for a lot of looks. Alright, we're gonna pop in the bright pink shade Caps Lock. This is one of those shades that can be somewhat polarizing because it's so bright, it's so Barbie pink. You're either gonna love this kind of shade or hate it. You know, the shade reminds me of the Divine Rose 2 Pat McGrath palette. She has a bright pink shade in there, but it's not matte. It's more of a satin shimmery shade that definitely is punchy, but this is kind of like a matte version of that, a little bit warmer maybe. At least it's pulling warm next to this orange. But this is a really beautiful bright pink matte that is just so easy to apply. So easy. I'm gonna take this bright pink shade underneath my eye. I know some of you are like, ooh. It can be hard to do pink next to your eye because it can make your eyes look really red, and I have certainly experienced that with some shades, not from this brand but other brands. I think it just really depends on the tone. I think because this is so bright, it's not gonna quite make me look sick. But I've had that happen before where my eyeshadow wasn't really that flattering because it was too red. So I think more red and less pink causes you to look a little sick. Alright, so we have two really fun shades to work with. We have a magenta pink and a lighter pink. I'm going to start with the deeper one and put this on the outer corner of my eye and see how this goes. So this is Mainframe. All about the brush. This has some interesting shifts to it. I'm gonna go ahead and use my finger. Such a fun color. Love, love, love Mainframe. So I like quick color payoff, and the finger provides that. Because I think the the shimmery shades kind of can take a while to really build up. And I don't got time for that. So I made up a little bit of a mess. So a little bit of fallout, but I did use my finger. But But I'm getting a lot of sunset vibes with this. I really like Mainframe, the magenta. It really kind of tones down that bright pink, if you will, and adds more dimension to it, interesting dimension. And not that like this color is not wild, I think it just lessens the sharpness of the pink. Now we're gonna go into that really pretty sparkly pink shade, Arcade. I don't know if it's just me, my brushes are not working today. Pretty pink. In the sunlight, I'm seeing a lot of just a lot of like kind of that gold silvery mixed sparkle instead of like really seeing that pink. It's just kind of got a lot of frost. And I think because of that you lose some of that pink color. So Arcade is very frosty on the eye, but nonetheless dramatic and pretty. I'm going to take more of Arcade in the corner of my eye. The way that Arcade applies seems more like a topper shade than like a shade with a lot of color behind it. My first impressions of this palette so far are pretty positive, of course. I love Leaful. I have a lot of their eyeshadows. I think these perform just as well as their other shadows. I don't see any difference, except for probably Arcade. I just got a lot of follow and there's not a whole lot of color behind it. Just seems like more of a topper shade, which is a little bit disappointing because when you do swatch it, you see a lot of pink. But I will have to keep continuing to play with the shades and see how well they work. I do want to use every shade and I want to show you every shade, so I do want to do another look with the blues and greens just to see what else I can do with this palette besides purple and pink. I think if you're really creative, you'll find a way to mix the blues and purples. I think that's a really pretty obvious choice and I may do some of that. But I think this pink is really pretty and nice for summer, and the purple you could do any time of year really. So I'm gonna go ahead and put on some eyeliner and mascara and show you the final look with these colors. Alright guys, this is the final look with the first two looks. I am really happy with this palette and the color story so far. I love purples in general. I think these shades are really easy to work with, especially in the mattes. It's like a breeze. I'm really enjoying the pink as well, especially the Mainframe color, that shimmery, kind of a different kind of pink. Yeah, I really enjoy these looks so far. Please let me know your thoughts, and let's get into the next couple looks. Alright guys, had a little bit of a tough time removing my eye makeup while trying to keep everything else intact. I tried my best. I'm sorry if I'm a little bit gray or missing patchy foundation, you know. Ugh. It's hard to mix oil with things that shouldn't be mixed with oil. So I'm gonna do a couple more looks and that's gonna be it, because it's really hard to do 2 looks in one day, at least for me. I'm gonna do more of a green forward look and then more of a blue full forward look. So let's start with the green. I'm gonna go in kind of as my base shade in Quick Save, the orange first, and then we're gonna do Replica, the green. So Quick Save first. I think what made removing my eye makeup so hard was because I think my mascara was not completely dried yet. so that probably didn't help. But I don't know how everyone else does multiple makeup looks in a day. Do they just redo their face every time? I don't know. I think wipes are easier, but I still have like an oily film on my lid. That, like, how do you deal with that? Do you wipe it off? Do you put powder on top? Do you put your eye primer on again? I don't understand how people do this. I'm excited to try this green. Replica. Ooh. It's going on a little bit more sheer compared to some of the other mattes. Kind of gets lost a little bit, but seems to be building up. I think green is such a natural shade, like a color like this, while it looks bright in the pan, it's actually pretty neutral. Very, very wearable green. So I'm gonna try something a little different. I'm gonna use the light purple shade Sequence and pop that under my eye. Not something I would typically do. I don't usually use that many different colors in one eye, on one eye. Hard to resist though with this palette. There's a bit of kick up with the shade. You can see it kind of grew. Let's see if I can wipe this away. I'm gonna pop in the white shade Frequency in the inner corner. And then on top of it, I'm gonna use Overdrive because this is all matte and I want a little bit of sparkle. Just gonna wipe away. This is a different sort of eye look for me. Even though there's a lot of colors going on, they're muted, so it's pretty wearable. I really like the purple and green together. I think that looks nice. Alright, so on to the next eye. We're gonna do a blue and purple look. I'm gonna use these 3 colors. And I'm gonna start with the purple again, Sequence, on the inner portion. Just a killer shade. Alright, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm gonna do the teal Proxy on the other half. Looking a little bit powdery, just because it kind of lifted its tone from sort of a green to just really a blue. But now it's coming back that I put on a second layer. It's funny because a lot of these mattes, they take a second layer to show up and really have saturated color, which is fine. I think the formula is workable, probably because of that. Really pretty combination. Alright, so we're gonna go into Outrun on the crease. Even though blues are hard to work with, in my opinion, I don't love blue on my eyes, but I find this to be a pleasant shade of blue. And not necessarily like in a tacky way, which most people, a lot of people, sort of old school, associate blue eyeshadow with tackiness. I know that's not really the case anymore because a lot of people use colored eyeshadow these days, including blue. I think what I want to do underneath my eye is do a pop of pink and just sort of go all out with this one. So we're doing caps lock under the eye. I mean, this looks like total 80s eyeball to me with these sort of pastel shades. Love it, love it, love it. It's like watercolors going on. Huh, this is surprisingly one of my favorite eyes that I've done in a while. Alright, inner corner. I know this is like a really messy shade for me, but I want a little bit of sparkle. I'm going into Synth, which has a lot of fallout, but we're gonna work with it. Yeah, just a little bit of sparkle. I'm gonna do a little bit up here. There we go, totally 80s, love it. Oh, I'm loving this eye. I could go to an 80s party right now. I don't even have to wear a costume. I just have my eye makeup. I would be good to go. 80s party palette ready. I will say the downside of this palette is there's some fallout. There's some kick up, and the mattes take a couple layers to have their full impact. But it's literally 2 layers and you're good to go. I kept building because I really want to show off these looks, but the payoff is pretty incredible. They're pretty easy to work with, easy to blend. I'm just going over the bottom lash line with mainframe. Alright, I think I am done. We got 4 looks out of this palette, and I know I will have many more color combinations because of the variety that's included in this palette. I'm very impressed. Of course disappointed by the broken shade, but I'm still using it. I'm making it work. I'm gonna go ahead and finish up my makeup and then show you the final look for these last 2. Alright guys, this is the final look. I am so happy with these colors. I mean, this is definitely the more subdued eye. This matte green I think goes fairly well with the orange shade, and then the purple, although, you know, doesn't necessarily go with the orange, I think it does go pretty well with this mossy green, almost to the point that like you notice the purple but you notice the green first, and it just kind of complements it so well that it's almost not even there. And then this I am really proud of. I'm glad I took it there and kind of mixed in all these different colors. I think it is like a really pretty take on an 80s eye. I like the pink, I like the purple and blues and teal combination. I think it definitely works really well. The tones work so well together. And even though these are matte shades, they're not super sparkly, they really pack a punch, and they're beautiful and they're gorgeous, and it just shows you what different types of colors can do than you normally would use. And they can really make your eyes stand out in a really pretty, gorgeous, and fun way. And you get to practice a little creativity. So I've had a lot of fun using this palette. I certainly think I'm going to continue playing with some of these colors and experimenting. My #1 complaint is fallout, a lot of fallout with these shades. The matte shades, although they were powdery and I did get some fallout, they were easy to swipe away, whereas the glittery shades, like the more shimmery, sparkly shades, definitely the micro glitters and micro sparkles stuck around. So I'm talking about this one here. This is Arcade. This one was pretty sparkly, Night Call. And then Synth, the one I can't pick up, is the purple sparkly shade. That one particularly had a ton of fallout that was really hard to remove and almost impossible to remove. So if you're going to use a lot of that one, I would not put my foundation on first. Otherwise, I'm really happy with these colors. Just to point out some of my favorites and some of my not so much favorites. I liked the pink. I think this is a really good matte pink option. Better than Pat McGrath in her Olivia and Rose palette. She does have a pink in Divine Rose too, but it's not matte like this, and it's more sparkly. But this is definitely a really nice shade. One of my favorites, Mainframe. I mentioned it several times throughout this video. It's just a cool, like, shifting orange fuchsia pink color. Really interesting, and I like it on the eye as well. This is a really great orange neutral, really easy time applying it. These two shades are really good, probably some of my favorites from the palette. Definitely this one. You can work it in so many ways with all of these colors. As far as like the white shades go, I like the white. I don't have a lot of matte white shades in my collection just because I don't know what to do with them, but I'll continue to use it. Was it really an integral part of this palette? Do I think they could have used a different color? Yes. Not sure it's really necessary as a neutral shade in this palette, not at least for me. This sparkly shade here, Overdrive, it's definitely a silver tone, which I don't have from Lethal, and it is sparkly. It's just, I don't know, a little bit dry and a lot of, maybe too soft, and it just created a lot of fallout. And while I don't mind silver, I just think they're not super exciting. I want a little more color to things. And while this one had some color, it is pink and sparkly when you swatch it. When you actually put it on, I only see a lot of gold, and maybe that's because I'm in sunlight, and maybe if I'm more dimmer light I would see more of the pink, but when I was applying it I didn't see a whole lot of pink. The greens and blues are really nice. They just take a couple of swipes of the shadow to stand out and really, so you can see the color. You can't just apply one layer and be done. You have to use at least 2 layers, but that kind of went for all the matte shades. You kind of have to build up. This purple one, it's fine. It goes with the palette, the color, but I don't know, it didn't really stand out to me as being super special. I think it works. It applied fine. I didn't have any issues with it. Synth, I really like the shade and the duochrome effect of that one. It's got a lot of purple sparkles, very princessy, and I'm a fan of that. I do have some similar shades to it in my collection already, and I think it performs well. I would have liked it to arrive in one piece, but the fallout was pretty incredible with this one, and it's really difficult to remove, so that gets kind of a bummer. But otherwise, I think this is a really good comprehensive palette. I like that you can customize it with stickers. You can pop them out really easily. I think that's a really nice plus. If you guys want to see, I have a couple of videos with featuring Lethal Cosmetics. I do have quite a few of their shades. If you want to see anything from the After Dark palette with any of these colors, let me know. I think I have some blues that would probably help this eye pop because they have some sparkle to them. I also have some other shades of purple that would be interesting. I also have a warm palette, And I think these shades would really make that orange matte shade pop. And I have some greens, so that would also complement the moss green, as I said before. And I just have a lot of tones to play around with. If you're into lethal, let me know. I can do swatches of all these. We can do all the palette, everything I have. If you want to know a certain color combination, ask me if I have it, and we'll see what I can do. Yeah, please let me know what your questions are. If you think this palette is worth it at $47, if you're in the US, it's not just $47, it's actually $66, $67 with shipping. So that's kind of an expensive palette for 12 shades, but if you were to buy these individually, and I think Lethal produces some really good quality shades, you know, you're looking at an indie company, so they're not going to be, you know, mass produced, they're not going to be cheap. Just remember that. I think you're getting a good deal with the palette, considering if you were to buy each individually, they would be expensive. But I will say, you know, when you can build your own palette, there is a reduced price when you buy 12. So I believe as long as all of these shades you're able to buy individually, you could probably build your own palette for not. I think this is actually cheaper than doing this. You know, customizing your own palette by quite a few dollars. So think about that. Like, if you don't love all these shades and you rather just customize, I think that's really smart, because you do save money by putting them in, filling up a palette. But if you want like 5 shades, and just compare costs. Think about, okay, like, how much do I have to buy to get this? How much does it cost? Versus buying a few shades at a time. Or if I like most of the shades in here, does it make sense to just buy this one? So a lot to consider money-wise. Do your math, compare. I would say if you're thinking like you're on the fence about buying 12 shades in general, don't be. They're all really good. As I said, some have more fallout than others. I do have other sparkly shades, and I haven't quite noticed the amount of fallout that I have in this palette for some reason. Maybe it's just the formula, maybe they change things up a little bit, but I just don't have that fallout problem with these guys. But yeah, if you're on the fence between a couple shades, let me know and I can help you out, especially if I own them, and I can perhaps show you what they look like on my skin. Anyways, I hope you learned something from this video. I hope this helps you decide whether or not you want to get the After Dark palette or not. Yeah, I think overall, I think it's a really great palette. I recommend getting it. Just know that anytime you buy from Lethal, you're gonna pay some shipping. So it may make sense to pick up quite a few things and kind of do a bulk order. That way, and every time you're ordering, you're not paying for a whole bunch of shipping every time. So get a lot of shadows at once. That's what I recommend. Buy at least 12. If you don't have the money for it right now, wait until you do and then buy it all at once, because I think that really makes sense with shipping. That being said, I think that's it for me. Please let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Please click like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye guys.